My guest on this episode of Suds Search is Jason Brown, an expert local SEO and Google My Business gold level product expert. Jason has a wide breadth of SEO knowledge, but what he really loves to do is fight spam. Spam has been a major issue in SEO from the very beginning. Over the course of my career, Google has cleaned up many of the most common tactics, but local businesses still grapple with an astonishing level of spam, especially in the map pack. Spam fighters like Jason act as consumer vigilantes, fighting spam on behalf of legitimate local businesses. I start our conversation by asking Jason the different ways that spammers are attempting to take advantage of vulnerabilities in Google's local algorithm. In many cases, this activity isn't merely a matter of bad customer experience, it's actually fraud. We talk about why Google hasn't been able to do more to fight spam, and how other third parties like the Better Business Bureau are involved. Jason presents at numerous industry conferences, including Local U, Local Search Summit, and PubCon. He's a columnist for SEMrush and regularly appears in Bright Local webinars. He's a sought-after subject matter expert for national and local news pieces on local spam. If you like this interview, I highly recommend that you follow Jason on Twitter. Grab a beer and join me for a conversation with one of the top local spam fighters in the world. We'll talk about why local spam is so prevalent, how small businesses can fight back, and the time he found a lawyer who had a listing in the middle of the ocean. Jason Brown, welcome to Suds Search. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. How about yourself today?
Doing great. You feel like having a beer with me?
Dude, I love having a beer. Let's go.
All right, I'll give you a virtual cheers. Thanks for coming on. We're loving things here in Chicago. I am so excited to have you on. I've been a fan of yours. You have this fantastic Twitter. You're known as maybe one of the biggest spam fighters and maps that there is, and you do it with gusto. So you have these great GIFs that you put out on Twitter with John Wick, like loading his gun before you're about to take down a bunch of spammy businesses. I'm just curious, how does someone, you've had a career, you have a background as a project manager, worked at a couple different SEO places. How did you get into spam fighting? How did that journey take place?
Yeah, it was kind of a fluke thing. There's a couple different things that happened. One of my clients had bought some fake reviews to try to give his Google My Business a little jump start. And so I reached out to Mike Blumenthal and I said, hey, can you help us take down these reviews? And it took Google about 3.5 months to take it down. And they only took down 15 out of 17 of the reviews. And I also noticed, somebody else had an incident where somebody showed up to their house over a negative online review. And when I looked at the business, they were just trashed on Yelp. So I think they had like a 1 or 2 average star rating. But on Google, they were like at a 4.5. And I said, okay, that cannot be, like, something is wrong. And then that's when I started, really kind of looking at it, and friends were egging me on. And then Mike Blumenthal, who's just so awesome. He's like,
legend, right?
Hey. Yeah, total legend. And so Mike Blumenthal, and this was when I didn't really know him, just from Twitter. And he's like, hey, you want to work on this project together? And I said, yeah, I would love to. And so we started documenting the fake reviews. And so that's kind of how I got started. I threw up review fraud, started going after the bad actors, started messing around, taking out, some, fake listings here and there. And it just was like, it was just too easy to not go after the fake listings. And then it kind of became sport. Lawyer spam started taking over. A bunch of people were like, hey, have you seen these? Have you seen these fake listings? Have you seen these? And so I didn't want to get into fake listings. I thought it might be a little too robust to try and figure out. But I mean, you're reverse engineering what other people are doing to throw stuff up. And then it just kind of became kind of natural. And so then I just, and I love, being silly on Twitter. So like you said, I throw out GIFs, and, I've been beating Google up, with the dumpster fires. And
I love a dumpster fire. Yeah. I love it. I know. Yeah, if there's one thing, definitely everyone should follow you on Twitter. It's outstanding. I think I should probably set a little bit of a foundation for people who aren't in local. Can you give people listening some sense of how big a problem map spam is, and maybe even more specifically, what are the kinds of ways that people are spamming maps?
Yeah, so there's three different levels of spam on Google My Business. So there's just the fake listings that are not legit. They're either violating some form of the guidelines, either it's lead gen, or they're using their private residence and they're not hiding their address. There's all of the keyword stuffers, where they start adding, their services and their names. They're like, best attorney, Southampton of New York, 24/7, and they start sticking all their services in there. And then the other, spam on Google My Business is, and it's really lucrative, unfortunately, is all the fake listings or all the fake reviews. So, you create a listing and then you go out and you get like your friends or family to review you. I was on vacation last week and, we were placing an online order at this restaurant. And as soon as I get to their website, it's like, hey, leave us a review, enter a raffle to win $500. And I'm just like, it's so prevalent because people are desperate to try to figure out, well, how am I going to rank and perform better? So you have those nuances. But when it comes to the GMB spam, I mean, it's ludicrous how badly it is. So if you think of almost any service area business, and what I call a service area business, it's a business that's going to come into your house. So it doesn't matter if it's a landscaper, locksmith, garage door. These are the businesses that you don't have to physically go to. Your first inkling is to dial a telephone number, right?
Right.
And so because you're not having that in-person contact with them to begin with, you have no idea who you're talking to. And a lot of times it's a call center. They're selling the leads out to, different people. There's this lawyer who called one of those lead gen numbers, and they were pretending to be him. And so he called, he calls himself this guy Travis, lawyer Travis. And so he calls and they're like, well, I'm sorry, Travis is on the other line with a client right now. He goes, really? He's on the other line right now? It's Sunday evening. And they're like, yeah, he's really busy. He goes, gee, that's funny. I'm Travis. So how am I on the other line with somebody when? And then, and so it goes click. But
no, you have these ones where you're calling an electrician, and instead of saying ABC company, they say service. They don't, because they're a lead gen for an appliance repair electrician, just a catch-all for everything. What do these things ever cross into? That's a bad consumer experience. You might get ripped off into straight up illegality and criminality on the part of these people, or is that usually just sort of bad consumer experience?
No, it's completely illegal. So it's considered consumer fraud because when you're calling a business, you don't know who you're making contact with. So it's all done fraudulently. With the rehab space, they call it body brokers.
Right.
So
That's horrible.
It is. And we're actually starting to see like more and more cases of these body brokers being brought to justice. We just had a major case 2 weeks ago in LA where they actually just pled no contest. Like they didn't want to go through like the whole trial because it was just going to be easier for them. There was another case of a body broker firm in Florida, but that's kind of what they do. But they step it up where you're looking for legitimate help. So while we're doing SEO and Suds, with having a beer, but there's actually people out there that are struggling with addiction or need to get help for a family member. They call one of these numbers and then they get sent to some, inappropriate place. Now you're from Chicago. So, the son of the Chicago Hawks, Blackhawks, their announcer, his son went to one of these unscrupulous rehab places, down in Florida, and he ended up dying in a motel that was next to a drug den. So, that's what we're not really seeing, with this, lead gen. So yeah, you're going to get ripped off. They're going to charge you, 3 times, 5 times as much as you should be charged for services, whether it's a garage door or a locksmith. You may not even need the services that they're offering. They'll do the thing where like appliance repairs, they'll say, well, we need to order a part. It's going to cost, $750. You write them a check. They say, as soon as the part comes in, we'll come back with the part. Well, they take off. By the time that you try and find them, the listing's gone. It's been taken down by Google, or they just shut it down because they get hit with, too many, negative reviews. There's some of the garage doors, they'll go and they'll buy a business. Yeah, they'll buy somebody's business because they've got the rating, and then next thing you know, they just completely torch it. It gets all the negative reviews. They shut it down. It's just it's a nasty churn and burn that people don't think about.
Yeah, it's terrible. I wonder. I think what people would logically ask is that, Google's this gigantic technology company. They can bring unbelievable resources to bear if they wanted to. The obvious question is why can't Google figure this out? Why is this such a difficult challenge for them?
Well, I think Google lacked proper motivation. So I think we're starting to see some of that proper motivation. So Ben Fisher just tweeted out today.
He's outstanding.
He just tweeted out that he's seen a lot more account level suspensions coming in with last week, and and I'm seeing it too. I'm seeing a massive decrease. So I think Google now is getting some of that has that proper motivation. We've had the Wall Street Journal article that came out a year ago. Right. The Register just covered the rehab spam. CBC in Canada actually did the locksmith spam earlier this year. So we're seeing it now. And I think Google's starting to finally go, okay, you know what, we need to do something. We just saw an update in the Google My Business terms of service where they're actually listed lead gen as not acceptable. And this is a marketing term. This is not a Google term. So Google doesn't refer to it as lead gen. So I think as we've kind of started making a lot more noise, they're now starting to say, okay, you know what, this is a problem, and so we're going after it. And so according to what I'm hearing, sounds like they went after a garage door, they went after some rehab, they went after the cars for cash clunker, listing. Yeah. So it sounds like, we are seeing, different things. We saw, lawyers get wiped out several times last year. So it's like, it's hard to always find the pattern. So right. If we think about it, spam's always been an issue, whether it's been, content spam or stealing content or, link building or PBNs. It's like every time Google finds one thing, well, then we figure out, okay, well, what else is working? And so then, we go in and we tweak something. And that's basically what these spammers are doing is they find a loophole, they exploit the snot out of it. Google comes in, finds it, they find another loophole, then another. And so that's just kind of how it is. And so it's going to be a lot of Google, having to chase their tail, but I don't see, and I think also the other issue is Google wants to rely on AI. And I don't see AI as being the end all be all to fix all problems. It can't happen because, these people just keep changing and stuff. So I think Google has to have a team dedicated, kind of like Sterling Sky does, or with me going in and going, okay, look, here's the patterns that we're seeing, because we see a lot of stuff with the naked eye, and Google has a lot more wherewithal where they can actually see, okay, well, how was this listing created? How many edits were made to it? Are they transferring the accounts? Like we used to do, if you ever did anything with PBNs, you would go and you registered a domain. You would do the private, registration, and then you'd bill them out, and then you would go and transfer them. Well, you could see all those little, pain points that other people can't see. And so I think that's just kind of where Google has to get to that point where they just get so fed up with it that they just want to, tackle it. So hey, Google, if you're listening, hire me.
Yeah. There you go. And then there's we have some typical consumer protection places like the Better Business Bureau and so I guess related agencies. Do they get involved in this? Have they even talked about it? Is there some sort of third party that I'm not aware of?
Yeah. So the the Better Business Bureau, the BBB, they're all independently operated. So they're not one major conglomerate like we like to think. But yes, they do have the wherewithal to contact people in power, contact the news agencies, basically the same stuff that I've been doing. So when they start seeing, a lot of egregious spam and abuse, and they'll sit there and say, hey, look, here's something that's going on, and they'll start, doing their campaign to get, to loop other people in. The FTC also regulates this. A lot of the times you've got to, file a complaint with a local DA and your state attorney generals. And now I think what we're also seeing is there's a lot more of the antitrust hearings, which is starting to happen. And so now all the governors are starting to get on board and put pressure on Facebook, on Amazon, on Apple, to start policing their products, because they've had enough with all of the news. Like you can't look at the news on a daily basis without seeing either fake news or fake reviews. And so they're just, they're realizing that it's out of control and they actually need to come in and stop it. So,
makes sense.
But the problem is it's going to take so long for the government to get involved. There was the hostage mover companies, and all they would do is just, they would get torched.
These things are coming back to me, Jason, as we're talking. I remember that now. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So, that case was 5 years in the making, and they finally went after them with the RICO charges. And I think as much as I'm not like, I don't like to, live in la la land, but I honestly think these spammers are going to be opening themselves up to RICO statutes, because they're violating, the phone laws with some of the ways that they were creating their listings, doing the SIM cards, doing the fake reviews, creating them all over, various states, selling the techniques, everything these guys were doing. There's going to come a day of reckoning where, the government's just going to come in and shut them down. It may not be this year, it may not be next year, it may be a couple of years from now, but I think we're going to start seeing some major enforcement. And honestly, I don't think a RICO charge is anything anybody really wants to see. So I know I have a fan, and I know I have a fan club. I know I've got those people out there that are upset and angry with me because they lose their listings. But honestly, if you're paying attention, just stop now. Just go legit. I think about how much time, energy, and effort they're putting into creating all these fake lead gen listings to just have them constantly being taken down. When they say that they've lost, anywhere from 100 to 1,000 listings, in a month. It's like all that time, energy, and effort could have just spent just going legit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have you ever, you mentioned the phone call. Have you ever in real life met the other end of that? Like a spammer who says, in real life, he comes up to you, he says, we're doing this kind of activity, and now you really get to go face to face with someone. Has that happened to you before?
Only online.
Only online, yeah. I think I was like fixated by that story of the lawyer. I thought that was so fascinating that you finally get to talk to the person, because they're so, you don't even know who it is. It's very black. It's very much opaque. So.
Yeah, I've called several of those lead gen numbers, and I've had some fun at their expenses. I know other people that have called them and been able to record them.
Right.
Yeah, so it does happen, but I usually people just say nasty things to me on Facebook or Twitter or mock me and other people. Oh, the dude the good goods, and it's like,
yeah.
Look, bottom line of the day, we're marketers, and our job is to make sure that our clients are ranking and they're performing. So if there's, a whole bunch of spammers in our way that are, making it so that our clients aren't performing right now, yeah, we're going to go in and we're going to wipe them out. You've got to, do what's best for your clients. And I'm sorry, if you're a spammer and you have a bunch of fake listings, and it comes down between my client, who's being legitimate, and 150 fake listings. If I buy 150 fake listings, they're going down.
Right? Yeah. Do you get, even now, a dopamine kick when you get that email from Google that they've taken action on something you've flagged, or is that now just old hat for you?
No, I see everything as motivation. So a rejection is motivation. Getting 30 published emails this morning was awesome. It's like, all right, yes, here we go. People saying, hey, I just noticed all the spam is gone. That motivates me. And then the people saying, just give it up. It's not worth it. That's my motivation. So yeah, I look, I'm a geek. I'm not going to hide it. I do this. I do spam fighting to get paid, and I do it for sport. So this morning's, spam reports was all personal. It was just, me just going out there and going into different cities and markets and wiping them out. And I think today, before 10 o'clock, I had already reported 150 fake listings in 3 different cities. So,
wow.
And that was paid.
Well, great. I mean, I should get some actionable advice from you before we get off. But if you're somebody, you can hire Search Lab or Sterling Sky to help you out. You just got a small business, but your area is flooded with spam. There are 2 things that you can. There's a redressal form. There is a suggest and edit option. To kind of describe to our listeners what those 2 things are and what's the best course of action to, if you've got one of these really, it's totally made up business, it's a lead gen service, what you should be doing.
Yeah. So first thing you want to do is you want to do a suggest and edit, but do yourself a favor, create a secondary Google My Business or Google Gmail account just for your suggested edits. So make sure that it is not affiliated with any of your real activities. So it's not associated with your Google My Business listings. It's not associated with any of your reviews, and start doing that. So start doing suggest and edit. Don't ever upload a photo as proof. Unless you're not using your real name, because if you're using your real name, they will find you and track you down and make your life miserable. So you want to just be as minuscule as possible. You don't want them knowing who you are. So do the suggested edits, because that's going to feed the Google API, so they can start seeing what kind of edits are there. You'll see an edit either get published right away or immediately rejected, or it'll go into a pending status, and pending status can take anywhere from a day to several weeks to a month, depending on the time frame. So I say do that. If the edit doesn't get approved right away, then you want to go to the redressal form, and you can now use redressal form for the keyword stuffing, which is nice. So always suggest an edit on the keyword stuffers, and if that doesn't work, then do the redressals. And if you're seeing just a bunch of fake listings in your area, then just start documenting them. Use the redressal form. Look at Street View. Look to see if there's any signage. Look to see if they're registered in with the state. You can check the Secretary of State. That works well when it comes to lawyers. You can check the state bar, check their status. This morning I was looking at a listing, and I went ahead and reported. It looked kind of hinky. I mean, there was a couple of keywords in the name, but I went and I looked them up, and their business license was inactive. So they didn't renew it after May. And so I used that. I said, look, their business license is inactive. So, go ahead and remove it. So those are the things that I suggest for people to do. If that's really not, taking the case and working for you, then the next thing you can do is you can contact, the local media. Right now, I know they're heavily focused on COVID stories, right. But this is also a great story for COVID related. If your business is already struggling enough as it is, and you've got all these spammers that are boxing you out and they've got fake reviews, you go to the press and media with that and say, look, we're already at a hardship, but now we got to compete with these fake listings, and they're all lead gen, and get them to cover the story. Because it's really great when the press gets involved and they contact Google, all of a sudden the spam's gone like Thanos.
Things work. It's interesting. So this is hopefully this will be fun. So you have this game you play on Twitter, where you'll put up a picture and it'll be like a basketball hoop and a cinder block wall, and you'll be like, what is this business? What are some of the really craziest things you've seen in your career? And I can't imagine what some of these things would be.
Okay, I have to say the basketball hoop, I think, was my personal favorite. So that was a rehab listing that no longer became a rehab listing, and then was listed on Google My Business. Yeah, don't take a sip on this one, as a pediatrician.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so it was a cul-de-sac. It was just this really bad, dilapidated basketball hoop. That you'd fill. You put the water in, roll it out on the street, and the kids play. But I think that's kind of what a lot of what we see. So you see the lawyer in the KFC or in the McDonald's. It's like
that one, yeah. Right.
Yeah, we see those all the time. Right now, you'll see insurance agencies inside grocery stores. So I guess you can go get your Starbucks, your Red Box, and get your car insurance. So
right.
Yeah, I love looking at that. My personal favorite 2 months ago was a lawyer whose listing his map pin marker was in the middle of the ocean.
That's fantastic. I remember way back in the day, there were like 30 locksmiths in Central Park, like inside a park. If you've been to Central Park, there's no businesses in there. It's like,
yes,
it's amazing what people can do.
It is, and I don't think we're gonna see like that magnitude. So Google actually cracked down on locksmiths and made it harder for locksmiths to get created. But these people are creative. They're coming up with workarounds. But I think Google's found some of the workarounds and actually stopped it. But yeah, it's crazy. You'll see businesses where there shouldn't be businesses, and I think a lot of it is, we're finding a lot of them just in the middle of the street, or in little in lakes or rivers, and you're just kind of like,
it's amazing.
But that's
yeah. Well, Jason, you are fighting the good fight. I'm a big fan. Keep doing what you're doing. You were part of the Sterling Sky Dream Team. I've mentioned your Twitter many times. How else should people interact with you if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, go ahead and hit me at Kaiser Holiday on Twitter, or you can shoot me an email at info@reviewfraud.org. Website's still up, email's still working. I get a lot of requests of, hey, look at this. But yeah, you want to send me the fake listings that you've got. I do a lot of pro bono work, so you don't have to hire full-fledged company. You need somebody to just kind of come in and do a little whack-a-mole in your area. Let me know. Look, I love marketing. I love help, but I love helping the little guys, and everybody needs help, especially in this day and age. And so, yeah, I don't mind working for free.
Oh, you're outstanding, Jason. Thank you so much for coming on, and look forward to having a beer with you again soon.
All right, cheers. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you.